Mnandi njani empilweni bazali bothisha and all deputy principal. Sorry. All is pointing in this direction. All right. So we are happy to be back for this process. We're happy that you've welcomed us back to your wonderful school. On behalf of the Highways staff and on behalf of Ichita, we would like to welcome the teachers this time to the Highways world. Last week we were welcoming Abafundi. So this time, Nanfut, you also deserve to be welcomed, otherwise you will feel left out. Nama? Okay, all right. So I'm here with my colleagues. I'm here with Shannon. He'll be making all of you famous. And I'm here with my colleague that I've worked with for years. Colleague, what's your name? I'm joking. I'm here with David. Now, David is going to be presenting, we'll both be presenting what's known as flipped learning. Now, flipped learning is basically a new way of fundisa that moves away from the traditional setting of fundisa. Now, as teachers, I can't teach you or I can't tell you exactly how you go about it. The traditional method of fundisa, as you know, is usually Utisha stands in front of the class, right? And he or she is teaching. So we're trying to move away from that image of a teacher being a walking textbook. So we want to encourage that kind of discussion and debating and interactivity between teachers and students. So we don't want our students to feel left out, because naturally in class you have our students who catch on very fast. And you have students who are in between. And you have students who catch on later on. It doesn't mean which door who catches on later is down. They just need this cut to catch up with the others. And that one who's below is much smarter than the others. All right, so my colleague David will join us and we shall be going through this flipped learning experiences and see exactly what it is all about. So please, David, can you please take us through with the flipped learning?
Good morning, goeiemorgen, Dumela, Malweni. I think that's about it. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've already been introduced, my name is David. I used to be a teacher. I used to be like you guys. We were talking earlier on about how I used to wear a tie and suits and oh man, it was crazy. But that was a long time ago. I'm a lot older than I look. I'd like to just discuss something with you that has been around for about 10-15 years, but is slowly changing education as we know it. And it's called the flipped classroom, as Jackson's already said. Is it a problem for you? Let me ask you this. Is it difficult when you've got 38 to 40 learners, you've got 5 that are sharp, 20 that are okay, and then you've got 10 that are like nothing? Is it difficult for you as an educator? Because you've got to keep these guys busy, you're teaching here, and what do you do with those guys? Because now you've got to do something with them. So while that group is busy doing extension exercises, you've now got this lot that are doing normal exercises, you've now got to spend the next half an hour talking to these group to try and get them to understand what the first group is. That always is a challenge, isn't it? And another challenge that I've seen, children don't think anymore. When I was, long time ago, if I wanted to have fun, I had to go outside, climb a tree, chase a dog, get a cane with a piece of clay on it, put the cane, to try and hit the train as it went past. All those things that, go running, go play football, go play cricket, go do something. What do kids do now for entertainment?
Dating status.
Facebook. And how's this one? You see all the girls doing that, eh? And it goes onto Facebook, whatever. So what has happened is, human beings over the last 20 years, children especially, need something that's going to go to get their attention. Do you agree? If you, talk to me. If you think I'm talking rubbish, please tell me. No, seriously, because I've seen it. I mean, I've got children, nieces and nephews. They get so, I'm bored. There's nothing to watch on TV. Well, go outside. Oh, then go outside. Because all they want is this. They want bright lights, they want noise, they want music, they want sound, they want all through the eyes. Gentlemen, ladies, that's true, eh? The idea of a flipped classroom is to take the role of the traditional teacher, as Jackson said to you, where you stand with a piece of chalk and I know everything, you know nothing, let me give to you. Right? That's the normal teaching. The idea is that you turn it around. And it makes your life easier. But people are not understanding it. So how it works is, you would then say to your learners, in 3 days' time, in history, who does history? Okay, grade 12 history. Right. So in 3 days' time, we're going to be looking at the Cold War. And we're going to be looking at how President Truman in America made these decisions, and we'll look at the Marshall Plan, and I want you to know about the Marshall Plan. Does that sound familiar, sir? All right. So normally the children would walk in, they'd sit down and you say, right, there was a man called General Marshall, who worked under the American government, and this is what he did. And the kids go, well, they're passing notes to each other because they're bored. The idea of the flipped classroom is that they have that lesson in their hands already. They go home, they read it themselves, they teach themselves at their own pace. Now that's interesting because sometimes learners will click, as we said, straight away. And then the smaller group at the end are very slow to catch on. If they can study that material at their own pace, they then come into your classroom and now we're going to teach the Marshall Plan in history. What do you have to do? Just ask questions. Start a discussion. So, Marshall did 1, 2, 3. How do you think Russia reacted in the Cold War when Marshall's action plan did this? And someone said, oh, but Khrushchev or whoever that was leader of the Russians said da 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 da. And then what happened to Berlin? Well, they decided to take Berlin and cut it in half and build a wall. And now you have this discussion going on in the classroom, which is so much easier than having you stand up there and just talk. How does that sound, ladies and gentlemen? So what has happened is, that is the very basic principle. It does require more hard work. So, it means that your planning needs to be accurate. Because you need to know for definite that in 3 days' time, you will be doing the Cold War. You're doing, let's have a think about mathematics. You're going to be doing algebra. You're doing some X, Y, Z, three-dimensional algebra or something. You've got to know that that's going to happen in 4 days' time. So on Monday, there's your assignment to go and work on that. So when they come in, you ask questions, you hand out worksheets, and your classroom time is not the talking and the teaching. They know the material because they've seen it, they've read it, they've absorbed it. You now go around to each learner and check their worksheets as they are working on them. Hang on a second, don't do that, do that. Yes, you've got it, yes, you've got it, no, you need a little bit of help, try this instead. And the end result is that every learner gets one-on-one attention, even if it's only for 2-3 minutes. But one of the biggest challenges we have as teachers is being able to do that one-on-one with the learners. How long is your period? 40 minutes? 80 minutes? Sorry? 55 minutes. You've got 40 learners. How do you teach and still give each one 5 minutes of your time? This method of the flipped classroom basically has turned traditional teaching upside down. That's why we say flipped. Because instead of you teaching and they go home and do worksheets that you have to mark, they're now teaching themselves, and when they're in the classroom, you are helping them with their worksheets to get it right, and you can see immediately who understands and who doesn't. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
Now this idea, this concept has been around for years, and it's never really taken off. I can tell you this, that they did a study in the United States. 80% of teachers in one school that adopted this method, they recorded between 25 and 30% increase in pass rate on their specific subjects. Some of them were up to 80 to 90% increase in pass rate for their subjects. Because the children are learning at their own pace and they're comfortable. Now, what we have done at IBIS, we've looked at this, and the tablets, those small phones that were handed out last week, the subjects that you teach are on there. So you'll see my ugly face, you'll see his handsome face. Jen, who some of you know, Jen from last week, you'll see her face. She does the maths and the science and the biology. This man does isiZulu. What else did you do? Life orientation?
Life orientation. And for those of you who like
I hear that one section saying yeah.
Alright, so yeah, and David mentioned some in life skills, life orientation. There is also EPE. I'm sure you do EPE, different sports and so on. So there are a lot of so some of them are lessons or videos include different exercises, stretching, sit-ups. So different. So you strong and fit. All of you are going to add on to the strength you already have. So there are a lot of, as David mentioned, there are a lot of subjects and a lot of faces that you will see in those tablets. And also on TV, 1KZN TV, Glow TV, and Soweto TV. Same subjects, you see us there. You even get tired when you see us. But I hope it doesn't come.
He still has girls coming up asking for his autograph.
So yeah, just David, you were right about that. Yeah.
Who are the English teachers? Are you teaching English first edition language?
Yes.
So you are looking at, your literature is
Drama, My Children, My Africa.
Children of Africa. You're right. You will also have
Short stories. Short stories.
short stories. You've got a lot of poetry. There's drama.
There's drama.
Yeah, that's.
My Children, My Africa.
Yeah. Trying to think of what else I've been working on it. The story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
No, only thinking two genres, that's My Children and the changes only, the drama and short stories.
And there's poetry in there as well.
Others, not us.
So what I have done as the English specialist is this man has been filming me. I've taken chapter by chapter of a drama and scene by scene on My Children, My Africa, discussed the summary, said what's going on in the play. I've looked at the themes. There's this theme, there's that theme, there's that theme. And what does this young man and this young girl, what's their relationship like? It's 1989, it's before the breakdown of apartheid. You've now got a white girl going into a black school. You've now got this teacher who's got ideals. You've got the student who's a violent sort of opposites way of wanting to change apartheid. And I deal with all those kind of relationships.
Wow.
So I talk about it. So it saves you from having to stand there and read Act 2. You can't beat this. So I explain it and discuss it. Now the nice thing is, some of the other subjects are not just these ugly faces on the screen.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How did I move from handsome to ugly in such a
Short space of time. Am I that?
Okay, I'm an English teacher. We're allowed to use adjectives all the time. The nice thing is, if you see that screen there, right? This is the technologically genius man. So, for example, in your life sciences, Jen is standing there talking about biology and talking about human reproduction. The images and the flowcharts and the graphs appear on the screen behind her as she's talking. So she talks about a DNA structure. On the screen behind her, look, there's a DNA helix that comes up. She also does mathematics. So when she's talking about something simple, long division, you actually see the example. You actually see the example appearing behind you on the screen. Right? So the reason why I'm explaining that to you is it goes back to what I said earlier on about children wanting to see, to hear, to have visual and sound, and most of our lessons are between 5 and 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah, they start from 3 minutes.
Younger ones, because we do all grades, but the younger ones are 3 minutes, and for grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we actually have cartoons. So there's this little person walking down the road, and they're talking about things, and they're talking about adjectives. So that's for the younger ones. But for grade 12, which is for you guys, it's a lot more like you would see on a TV. Ooh, some of you are my age. Do you remember watching that maths teacher on TV, SABC 2, about 20 years ago? William Smith. Do you remember William Smith? Think of him, but we're a lot more fun and a lot more sexy. Right? So where he was sitting at a table talking, and he was writing, and then every now and again a picture would pop up. What we've done now is the same kind of thing, but you actually see it while we're talking, and you see the work going on, and the things happening. When I do some of the lessons I've done on the Cold War, for example, I've actually got pictures popping up of Berlin before, and then afterwards, when the Berlin Wall was built, then a picture of when the Berlin Wall was broken down, and suddenly it makes it real for the learners. So that's the principle behind the flipped classroom. Short, sharp lessons that they learn themselves. When you come into the class, you're no longer the school textbook, but you are a facilitator, you're a guide, you're helping, you're directing, instead of standing up there teaching. How does that feel, ladies and gentlemen? I think that's a good idea. As I said, the only extra work for you would be the planning beforehand. But then you've got your CAPS document which says we want day one, you're going to be teaching this anyway. So, anything else you'd like to add, Jackson? I think I've...
I definitely agree with everything. No, I do that sometimes. Definitely I agree with everything that you just said. There's nothing more I can add. But in closing, all I can say is the first thing that struck me when we arrived last week for the start was the way we were welcomed by everyone, especially the students. There's under the shop. Your children are well behaved, they are respectful, and I attribute that to the teachers. So, yes. Okay, I was going to ask you to grab hands for yourself. Let's go again this time.